Hello everyone, welcome to the discussion of World since 1990 International Relations of Standard 12 Political Science, Dr. Kalmari Shamarao Junior College. In this video, we will discuss about the changes which took place in the world since 1991. The topics which we will discuss are end of Cold War, end of bipolarity, terrorism, human rights and humanitarian issues. Now, in end of Cold War, we will discuss about the changes which the Cold War brought. We know that after 1945, the era of Cold War started, and after 1990s, things started to change in the global politics. So, what were those changes? We will discuss about that. Secondly, end of bipolarity. As we know, the world was divided into two superpowers, that is the USA and the USSR. And what were those changes which were brought after 1990s was that the end of bipolarity and coming of the multipolar world. Thirdly, we will discuss about terrorism. We know that terrorism emerged as a concept of creating threat and fear in the world politics, and it's reached to its severeness after 1990s. Next, we will discuss about human rights and humanitarian issues. Human rights regarding the claims of rights of human beings and humanitarian issues including issues like poverty, unemployment and human rights. Next, what we will discuss is the rise of independent states. Now, one most important change which came after 1990s was the emergence of independent states. Now, the countries like Czechoslovakia, Croatia, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, all these countries were under the rule of some dominant powers, but after 1990s they emerged as independent states. That is, they became independent from any colonial rule. The concept of soft power. The next important thing which came in to be discussed after 1990s was the concept of soft power. Now, before going to the discussion, we will try to understand what is soft power. So, soft power is the power apart from military and economic power. We know that a country's power is determined by its military and economic forces, but soft power is a way to influence other country through its culture, language and socio-economic forms. Joseph Nye concept of American soft power. So here Joseph Nye was the first American political scientist who gave this idea of soft power. Some examples of soft power which Joseph Nye discussed was educational exchange program, food chains and internet. Even apart from this, we can talk about the dress, westernization of culture, the dress habits, the food habits and also the educational exchange program in the sense that students are moving out of one country to another for terms of education scholarships. So these way one country is able to influence the other without any military or hard power. So the concept of soft power became prominent in the arena of global politics. Human rights in the post-Cold War era. Here the concept of human rights started gaining importance in the post-Cold War era. Since human rights violations started, there started to be more awareness among people. Over 170 countries participated in the 1993 World Conference on Human Rights. Here in 1993, the World Conference was held on human rights and we could see that 170 countries participated there. NGOs have been a crucial factor in the 1990s spread of human rights and its importance. Now we know that the non-governmental organization, that is the NGOs, have been playing a crucial role in bringing into limelight the violations of human rights. Any kind of violations, whether it may be relating to gender issues or women's rights or child rights, NGOs have been playing a very active role in bringing the issues into limelight. The ICRC, that is the International Committee of the Red Cross, was also an organization which made efforts to intervene in the cases of violation of human rights. The next important thing which came to be discussed in the post-Cold War era was the ICRC, that is the International Committee of the Red Cross, which took into the responsibility of registering the violations of human rights. We know that there were many violations of human rights, so the ICRC came in forward to take into consideration all the cases of the violations of human rights. The next important topic which we will discuss is about the UN peacekeeping operations. Now, the UN, United Nations, had played a very important role in the peacekeeping operations. Now, what were the basic goals and objectives of this operation? Is that they need to function to solve the local conflict. Now, local conflicts may be religious riots, communal conflict, caste conflict, class conflict, any kind of conflict. So, the UN took in step to solve any kind of local conflict. Secondly, they protected the civilians. So, all the civilians' protection's responsibility was in the hand of the UN peacekeeping operation. They came forward to protect the civilians. Thirdly, again, the preventing conflicts, that is similar as solving of local conflicts. Then promotion of human rights, again, promoting human rights, protecting human rights became one of the important aim of UN peacekeeping operations. Next, empower women. Now, since ages, there had been violations of human rights considering the women's rights. Now, the UN peacekeeping operations came forward to take steps to empower women in order to make women participate in the global issues, in the global movements. Deliver food support. Here again, this UN peacekeeping operation took a very active part in delivering food support to the poverty-stricken countries and to provide food security to all the parts of the world. So these were some of the basic objectives of the UN peacekeeping operations. India's role in peacekeeping operations. Now, what was India's role in peacekeeping operation? We'll discuss that two countries, that is Somalia and Cambodia. These two countries had faced civil war and there was war crisis. Many people were disturbed, political instability was there. At that time, India has played a very important role by sending its peacekeeping forces to Cambodia to maintain peace and restore human rights. And the same thing India had done in Somalia in order by providing humanitarian relief to the refugees in the relief camps. So India's role was very pivotal in the peacekeeping operations in both these countries. The next important topic what we will discuss is about terrorism. Now, what is terrorism? We know that it is a concept, it's a belief of creating fear and threat in the world, and it emerged as a global concept. Now, terrorism was not a limited concept, it emerged as a global concept, and after 1990s there were many attacks, terrorist attacks, which made the world create a threat and fear among the minds of people. The 9/11 attack on America, that is on the Twin Towers attack, brought a new concept of terrorism in the world. Then many examples are given, such as the Israeli Olympic team at Munich in 1972 by Palestine, then the Bali attack of 2002, the Madrid of 2004, and the Mumbai attack of 2008. So these were some of the devastating terrorism examples of terrorism which created fear in the minds of the people. The next important thing which we will discuss is multipolarity and regionalism. Now, to understand as this concept, we will just discuss what is multipolarity. What does multipolarity mean? Multipolarity means existence of many powers. After 1990s, the end of one dominant power ended, and therefore there were emergence of new countries and the world became a multipolar world. Neither a unipolar world or a bipolar world, but it became a multipolar world. That is existence of many countries. And regionalism, again forming of regional organizations in international politics. The American military and economic might made America a superpower and Russia emerged as an energy superpower. Considering multipolarity, America remained as economic superpower and Russia emerged as energy superpower, led by China and Japan as economic growth in the Indo-Pacific region. So in the Indo-Pacific region, China and Japan played an important role as emerging economic powers. Regionalism in post-Cold War era. Now, what does regionalism mean in post-Cold War era? Is that forming of regional organizations. So, when countries come together to form organizations, these were known as regional organization, and that concept is known as regionalism in international relations. So, some of the regional organizations were European Union, the European Economic Community, the BRICS, the BIMSTEC, the G20, the SAARC and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So before discussing going into detail into each organization, let's see what does regionalism mean in international relations. So countries come together to form organization with countries with same geographical linkages form this organization. Now one thing which we need to understand in regionalism is that countries come together, that two countries with same geographical linkages here. Okay, so countries sharing same geographical boundary or sharing same cultural values and norms, we can say they come together and they form the organization. It begins with a political dialogue amongst the participants. So it starts basically with a negotiation and political dialogue amongst the members. European Union was one of the important regional organizations formed after signing of the Maastricht Treaty in 1992. So in 1992, the Maastricht Treaty was signed and the European Union was a result of the Maastricht Treaty. The European Union consisted of all the European nations who followed the currency of Euro. So they formed the organization in order for economic development and cooperation. Now we move to SAARC, that is the South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation. SAARC is the association of South Asian nations. India, China, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan were originally the first members of SAARC. So we can see that these were the countries which were the original members of SAARC, and Afghanistan joined as the 8th member of SAARC. So basically SAARC worked for collaboration, economic development among the South Asian nations. Okay, and later on the SAARC gave birth to two agreements, important agreements, that was the SAFTA and the CEFTA. The SAFTA is the South Asian Preferential Trade Agreement and SAFTA is the South Asian Free Trade Agreement, which was signed in 2006 and 1993 respectively. So these two agreements worked on economic development and trade agreements between nations, between the South Asian nations. Next we have the BIMSTEC, that is the Bay of Bengal Initiative of Multisectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, which was founded in 1997. Now this BIMSTEC acted as a bridge between the South and the Southeast Asia and mainly acts to facilitate rapid economic development and promote collaboration in matters of common interest. The basic objective of BIMSTEC was economic development, multisectoral technical development. Along with it acted as a bridge between the South and the Southeast Asian countries so that there could be economic development and collaboration in matters of common interest. So while understanding BIMSTEC, we have to know that there were some group of countries, the BIMSTEC nations, they came together to promote collaboration and economic interest. Next we have the BRICS, the very common example and very famous association of countries, that is the Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. So this was an association of emerging economies formed in 2009. Members are all developing and newly industrialized countries. They are all members of G20. Now one important thing which connects all this nation is that all the 5 nations are developing. They are all emerging economies and they are all the members of G20. And they came into existence in order for economic development and to upgrade their economies, to work hand in hand together for upgrading their economy. The next is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, that is the SCO. Russia and China took the lead role in organizing the SCO. It came into existence in 1996 along with the Central Asian republics. Basically, China and Russia were the founding fathers of this Shanghai Cooperation Organization. They developed as a major vehicle for the promotion of Chinese and Russian geopolitical interests. The basic objective of this organization was to promote Chinese and Russian geopolitical interests. The main objective was to make the global world aware of Russian and Chinese geopolitical interest, and also by the objective of securing a multipolar world, which really means to work for checking the US unipolarism in international politics. Now this is something important regarding the SCO, that is that it had a check on US unipolarism. That means the US was dominating the global politics. So the Shanghai Cooperation Organization worked as a check towards this unipolarism and also of securing a multipolar world. That is, it supported for a multipolar world rather than a unipolar world.